In the future, the Earth is ravaged by a viral infection outbreak. Helgoland Island is the last uncontaminated island. However, due to limited resources, only 513 people can be sustained. So, the interim government established a social ranking system. The 513 residents are ranked by utility. Hildpol 340, Janosch Karstensen 391, Timo Voskamp 393, Ilka Schmidt 347, Karl Haber 398, Rita Owek 356, Herbert Cruz, Eric Otto. Residents are moved 3 steps down the list. The residents vote to exile one person from the island. This means your value determines whether you can live on Helgoland Island. An authoritarian society is established here. Aside from internal issues, the island must also prevent external invaders from infiltrating. They would not hesitate to shoot external refugees. On that day, a woman gave birth to a newborn. The priest at the bottom of the list went to his death in despair. Unexpectedly, a turn of events quickly occurred. This pregnant woman unexpectedly was carrying twins. As soon as the priest died, she gave birth to the second child. The leader, Atrali, immediately called a meeting. Because there was no ultrasound machine on the island, no one knew the pregnant woman was carrying twins. The biologist, Mark, suggested, under the condition of not voting out other islanders, to keep this child. However, this idea was rejected. Because once a precedent is set, everyone wants to be the exception. Then, no one will follow the rules. So, Atrali decided to eliminate another person from the bottom 3 in the rankings. These 3 unlucky individuals are Little Ka, ranked 511, who recently crashed the island's truck, resulting in losing most of his points. Following him is White Auntie, ranked 512, who is being overlooked due to being old and isolated. Lastly, the last place is Edie, who fell to the bottom of the list for stealing a painkiller. He is the most popular choice for elimination this time. Despite Edie's efforts to make amends, stealing medication is a serious offense. Due to shortages on the island, almost all medicines are being used for vaccine development. Only by conquering the virus ravaging the Earth can they leave the island and resume their former lives. The development of the vaccine is the responsibility of father and son, Mark. They are also secretly keeping a test subject from the outside infected with the virus. But despite their efforts, there has been no progress. Mark has secretly burned several batches of test subjects. To get back to the point, 3 substitutes tried every means to earn more points. Some people want to buy off the residents with money. Some people rushed to help the pregnant twins take care of the children. This day is the day for distributing supplies. Everyone has to receive their corresponding share based on points. Mark had just picked up a jar of pickles, only to be bumped into by a child. The glass jar fell to the ground and shattered. The child's parents were very upset, because supplies are distributed per person. This means they have to compensate Mark with their own share. Passers-by also gathered with a look of regret. Shauka stood by gloating. His friend Jiangza kindly reminded him, now is your chance to show what you can do. Hurry up and go give some food to that child. Be sure to make sure everyone sees it. Only then can you get extra points. Shauka followed Kiangza's instructions. The leader, Ateli, witnessed this scene. She stepped forward to encourage this behavior. She even suggested giving Shauka extra points. Kiangza left feeling satisfied. Along the way, he came across the IT couple. Kiangza deliberately provoked the IT couple with hurtful words. He even attempted to harass IT's wife, Lisa. The people around witnessed his misconduct, but none of them dared to step forward and stop him. Because Kiangza is Atela's son, the latter has always indulged his domineering behavior. Kiangza wanted to exchange goods for Lisa's services. The latter had to kowtow to Kiangza in order to obtain goods. Soon, the day of voting for the sacrificial victim arrived. IT undoubtedly received the most votes. Lisa couldn't swallow her pride. She immediately stepped forward to expose Kiangza's despicable actions, saying he has been stealing supplies from the island, using this to coerce female residents into having a relationship with him. Criminals like Kiangza should be at the bottom of the list. Lisa's words gave more victims courage. Other female residents also came forward to identify Kiangza. Kiangza, however, boldly approached the management, getting his mother to help smooth things over, but under public pressure, had to hold a new vote. The people had long held grievances against Kiangza. They raised their hands one after another in support of execution. Ateli couldn't bear to send her son to die herself. She agreed to only banish him from the island. Early the next day, the island's militia escorted Kiangza to the mainland. Mark's son Xiaoma also disregarded his parents' opposition, insisted on joining the escort team. Besides expelling Kiangza on this trip, the militia also needed to use the island's supplies to exchange medicines with survivors on the mainland. Due to the rampant virus on land, the militia troops all wear protective suits. As they get closer to the mainland, Kiangza starts to feel uneasy. He openly admits that Atli has hidden a lot of supplies. If the militia are willing to save themselves, Kiangza can guarantee them a lifetime of security. The militia were not bribed by him. They even beat Kiangza up and headed towards the mainland. Immediately after, the militia went to the agreed trading location to exchange supplies with survivors from the mainland. Unexpectedly, a man in a suit suddenly emerged, claiming to be a top-notch mechanic, wanting to join Helgoland Island. Seeing the man getting closer, the militia promptly shot him without hesitation. The island brought fresh fruits and vegetables, while the mainland only provided expired vaccines. After all, the pharmaceutical factories had long shut down. Fresh medicine was more precious than gold. The pony on the other side responsible for looking after the boat was very unhappy. He also wanted to chat with people from the mainland. So the pony slipped away while his teammates weren't paying attention. He was on his way. He met a black man named Moshik. This person had vaccines for treating influenza, and they were all recently produced. Moshik said he still had a lot with him. He led the pony to a broken ship nearby. Indeed, Moshik had a whole box of vaccines there. Not only that, he also had sophisticated laboratory equipment. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. The pony asked Moshik what supplies he wanted. The latter said, "I don't need anything." He just wanted to go to the island with his friends. Moshik called out his companions right after speaking. The pony only then realized he had been deceived. At the same time, the militia team returned immediately upon receiving the supplies. Unexpectedly, a fearless old man rushed over. He also lifted the mask of the militiaman. The old man was about to kill me. The female captain immediately shot him dead. Everyone did not dare to delay and retreated with supplies. The female captain also did not forget to let the fat man isolate himself, because his mask was lifted. When they were about to leave, they found that Xiao Ma was not on the boat. Although the female captain wanted to wait for him. But we cannot ignore the lives of other team members. At this moment, Xiao Ma broke through the siege with a shotgun. He saw that the militia boat had sailed away, rushing towards the coast. Unexpectedly, another refugee rushed over. The pony kicked it away vigorously. He went up and gave the refugee a gun butt. He rushed to the dock. A running start to jump onto the militia's boat. But the protective suit was accidentally torn during the escape. The pony is still breathing hard. Moshik actually jumped on board as well. He gave Pony a few vaccines, wanting to ask the militiamen to help the refugees. Before the words were finished, they were shot in the head by the female captain. At the same time, there was a problem with the filtration system on the island. This also means that the entire water supply system will fail. The entire island only has one bearded repairman, knows how to maintain this system. As a result, he also left his post today. Fortunately, the assistant called the bearded repairman in time. Only then did it not turn into a disaster. Atrayli suppressed her anger upon learning the situation. She hopes the bearded repairman can work with the assistant, sharing tips for maintaining the water supply system. But the latter is not a fool. If others also know the repair method, then he loses his value. No matter how calm the surface of Helgoland Island is, everyone knows in their heart. Every day they live as dancing on the edge. A slight slip-up could lead to losing everything. In the afternoon, the militiamen returned to the small island. Xiao Ma and Da Pang were locked in isolation. The remaining militiamen also have to undergo full-body disinfection. If no symptoms appear during isolation, only then can Xiao Ma and the others regain their freedom. He stuffed the obtained vaccine into Mark's hands. Mark saw the date above. He advised his son not to hold out too much hope. This may be refugees manufacturing fake vaccines to land on the island, specially produced counterfeit vaccines. At that moment, Da Pang in the next room was coughing non-stop, and there were rashes appearing on his body. He was very likely already infected with the virus. On the other side, the surviving leader of the mainland, the Count, sent people to retrieve Mohik's body to shore, and found fresh vaccines on the other person. At the same time, Mark thoroughly examined the vaccine. To his surprise, he found out it was authentic. But this can only treat the flu. Little Ma volunteered to return to the mainland to trade with Moxie. The result was immediately rejected by his father. Mark said that this matter will be taught to the senior management for handling. In order to research the virus vaccine as soon as possible, he brought over a male and a female specimen from the mainland. These people are emaciated and barely clinging to life. When the mice can at least stay calmly in the isolation room, they don't have to worry about food and drink and have a sheltered place. On the other side, Kiangza was wandering aimlessly. He found an old woman pushing a cart of groceries. He wanted to take advantage and get in good with her. So, Kiangza hummed a song as he walked up to the old woman, trying everything to please her. But the old woman was clearly not buying it and asked Kiangza to stay away. Kiangza's mind raced when he heard this. He explained that he didn't have any rashes on his body, absolutely not infected with any virus. Kiangza started undressing to prove his point as soon as he finished speaking, intentionally showing off his young and strong body. The old grocery woman couldn't help but stare. Kiangza managed to cozy up by selling his looks. The old woman took him back to her place, planning to keep a young gigolo to pass the time. Kiangza also found out through the old woman. The leader of the survivors on the mainland is called the Count. Kiangza wanted the old woman to introduce him. In the end, he was rejected. His patience finally ran out. Kianza walked behind the old woman. He grabbed her by the neck and slammed her against the cabinet. Then he grabbed the radio and killed the old woman. Don't underestimate Kianza's vitality. On the other hand, poor Dapong has already received his meal. The atmosphere in the laboratory was gloomy. Xiaoma didn't dare tell his father that he also had red spots on his body. Atli quickly held a memorial service for Dedong, and proposed to punish the female team leader severely, all because of her incompetent leadership that led to the endangerment of 2 militiamen. So Atli requested the removal of the female team leader from her position, deducting 100 points from her. Just when everyone was voting, a few young people who couldn't stand Atli intentionally coughed to scare the residents. Among them, the leader was actually the journalist's daughter. Dedong's infection made everyone suspicious. They fled the hall like startled birds upon hearing the cough. These few young people completely angered Atli. She immediately issued a new decree. From now on, parents will be responsible for their children's actions. If naughty kids make mistakes, their parents will also lose points. When this policy was announced, the journalist was at a loss, because her daughter was just found to be pregnant before marriage. Meanwhile, the bearded repairman. Although the island does not interfere in young people's love lives, it strictly controls the right to reproduce. The journalist's daughter's behavior seriously violates the rules of Helgoland Island. The journalist wanted her to secretly abort the child. However, the daughter refused to do so. This led to a big fight between the mother and daughter. The journalist saw that he couldn't convince her, so he secretly put abortion pills in her tea, was trying to use the hidden wireless radio equipment, was trying to use a hidden radio device to contact his wife on the mainland. He thought that since Big Fatty died, the island would definitely absorb new people. This was the best opportunity to help his wife onto the island. On the other side, Little Moss' condition was getting worse. He eventually told his father about the infection. Little did he know that Mark already knew. He intentionally hid the truth from Atli to protect his child. Pony thought it's better to leave here and die elsewhere. It's better to let him leave the island to continue the search for the vaccine. At the same time, the Count caught Mohik's accomplice, also inquiring about the whereabouts of the vaccine. He quickly reached an agreement with the leader Xiao He. The latter provided a new batch of vaccines. The Count provided shelter for Xiao He and his group of refugees. At the same time, Kianza pushed the old woman's cart and left. He met a woman near the railway track. Kianza threw a battery over. He wanted to know how to meet the Count. Who knew that the woman took the battery and didn't say anything? She even cooperated with her companion to ambush Kianza. When he regained consciousness, he found himself hanging upside down in the outskirts. The leader asked him why he wanted to see the Count. Kianza casually lied, saying the owner of the cart died of illness. He wanted to offer all these goods to the Count, but the leader didn't believe Kianza. Talking about it, the killer acted right away. Kianza had no choice but to confess that he came from the island. Upon hearing the leader's words, he indeed stopped. He pushed the cart and went to meet the Count with Kianza, wanting to exchange some goods with this pretty boy. After learning that Kianza is Atli's son, the Count bought him from the leader with a bottle of antibiotics. Kianza lied. He got separated when he followed the militia to exchange goods. He kept insisting that the old lady died of illness. But the Count could become the richest person on the entire continent. There must be something extraordinary about him. He saw through Kianza's lie at a glance. Guessed that this person not only killed the old lady, and most likely was driven out by the island. Kianza saw that he couldn't fool the Count. So he claimed that he knew a way to get onto the island. We can join forces to take over Helgoland Island. The Count planned to trust Kianza once more. Meanwhile, Big Fat died from illness on the other side. An extra spot opened up on the island. Atra plans to recruit a real doctor from the mainland. In the end, only 2 women were selected. One of them is still the wife of the bearded repairman. From the moment he arrived on the island 2 years ago, he has been hoping to reunite with his wife. The island immediately conducted video interviews with both of them. Both of them responded fluently to Mark's questions. They both performed extremely well. So, in the final voting stage, their scores were almost tied. The final vote was in Mark's hands. He would decide who the winner was. After hesitating, Mark eliminated the bearded repairman's wife, and chose another female doctor named Annie. Because compared to a pharmacist, the island was in greater need of a skilled surgeon. But this result shattered the bearded repairman, who tried to stop the management to fight for his wife's spot, only to be ignored by Atra. Not only that, the island refused to let the repairman leave. Afterwards, the management specially came to the deck to welcome the arrival of the new doctor, Annie. They didn't notice 2 people were hiding on the boat by the pier. They are Xiao Mei and Lao Bailing, who caught Kianza. After this incident, the bearded repairman was determined to retaliate against the island. That day, the windmill caretaker found a bottle of juniper gin. Alcohol was a scarce resource on the island. He secretly snuck into the office to drink. In no time, he got drunk. The bearded repairman took the opportunity to climb to the top of the windmill. The caretaker, in a daze, saw the surveillance footage, and discovered the bearded repairman was damaging the windmill's driveshaft. He quickly got up to go out and stop him, but because he drank too much, he was too unsteady on his feet. The caretaker climbed halfway up, but slipped and missed a step, directly breaking his leg. The medical staff hurriedly took him to the operation room. Little did they know that the new Dr. Annie was still nowhere to be found. Mark knew that the situation could not be delayed any longer. He decisively amputated the administrator's leg. As the surgery reached its final stage, Annie strolled in late. Mark asked her to quickly change clothes and come over to help. Unexpectedly, Annie ran out. She looked shocked by the blood. Mark sensed something was off about this new doctor. He immediately went to question Annie as soon as he left the operating table. The latter had no choice but to confess. Actually, I am just a Pilates instructor. So, I have a good understanding of the human muscular and skeletal system. Moreover, Annie memorized the whole medical book for this interview. She had memorized an entire medical textbook. She initially planned to blend in and learn gradually. Little did she know she would be caught up in a surgery on the first day. Mark was speechless upon hearing this. Surprisingly, Anne remained very calm, because she has leverage over Mark. Knowing that Mark has already been infected, Anne said Atli's rule won't last. The Count has already found a way to take over the island. As long as you help keep it a secret, when the Count attacks the island, I will ensure the safety of you and your son. Before Mark could even react, the physician's assistant suddenly burst in. She overheard the conversation between the two. She felt she couldn't cover up Anne's occupancy of the island's quota. Mark should also be punished for hiding his son's illness. The assistant said she was going to report to Atli after speaking. Unexpectedly, Anne pushed her behind the door. A chaotic sound of fighting came from inside. Then, Anne with blood all over her face came out pushing the door. She directly killed the assistant with a fire extinguisher. Mark beside her was stunned. This Anne is definitely not a good person. But Mark, in order to protect his son, had no choice but to agree to help her deceive Atli. The two of them took advantage of the night to throw the assistant into the sea. The next day, Atli had something to ask the doctor's assistant, but couldn't reach him. So she called Mark to inquire about the details. The latter falsely claimed to have not seen the assistant since yesterday. Atli didn't think much about it. She only asked Mark to contact her as soon as he had any news. Meanwhile, little Mark's condition was getting worse day by day. He almost fainted several times. Mark was extremely anxious but couldn't let others see it. That day, the journalist's daughter suddenly had a miscarriage. The journalist asked Mark not to let Atli know about it, since the child was already lost. There was no need to complicate matters further. Meanwhile, Atli was visiting the manager, where she learned from him that the new doctor did not participate in the operation. Atli keenly sensed that something was amiss. She walked out of the ward to check carefully, discovered the assistant's teeth. Atri immediately guessed that the other person had died, and the one who did it was either Mark or Annie. Atri won't banish Mark from the island, but there must be a scapegoat to pay for the assistant's death. The most suitable person is the bearded repairman. Anyway, he has a history of sabotaging windmills. It doesn't matter to add another charge. Atri pins the assistant's death on the repairman, saying he was afraid of the administrator's surgery being successful, so deliberately harming the doctor's assistant. The crowd was misled by Atri's sweet words. All agreed to execute the bearded repairman. Soon the militia dragged him to the seaside. In front of everyone, they drowned the bearded repairman. While Mark knew the truth, yet allowed Atri to falsely accuse the repairman, because they are the people on the same boat. The time came on the eve of the outbreak. Mark and his wife both work in pharmaceutical research. The suddenly spreading virus quickly caught his attention. Mark, just to be safe, returned to Helgoland Island with his son. Unexpectedly, he was stopped by the police as soon as he got off the boat. Everyone going to the island must show a negative test result. The increasingly dire situation made Mark feel uneasy. So, he called his wife in the lab, hoping she would return to the island as soon as possible. But his wife couldn't get away at all, because she was busy isolating virus samples from patient 0. She wanted to develop a vaccine as soon as possible. Although there are no infected people on Helgoland Island for the time being, the islanders are frantically stocking up on supplies. The supermarket manager had to stop customers. Mark also came to shop with his son. He sneaked into the supermarket while the boss wasn't paying attention, but the shelves had already been cleaned out by the crowd. At that time, Atli, who was still working as a salesperson in the supermarket. At a glance, she recognized Mark as a famous biologist. She took the initiative to help him choose goods, winning Mark's favor. Then she went out to reassure the crowd. Atli explained that a supply ship will arrive tomorrow. At that time, the supermarket will sell at the original price. Her words finally sent away the crazy customers. Atli had already shown leadership skills from that moment. After sending away the customers, an employee accidentally knocked over a cart, causing all the valuable food to spill. The male employee was filled with regret, had no idea how to explain to the boss. Atlee pointed at the news on TV and said, "If the epidemic continues to spread at this rate, the current social norms will become a thing of the past. What's the big deal about spilling a truckload of juice? If laws no longer exist, why should we take orders from a supermarket boss?" Audrey's words struck a chord with everyone. A small alliance is forming. The next day, all the employees, under Audrey's command, managed the supermarket in an orderly manner. They even sealed the French windows with paint. Although the manager tried to stop them, he realized that the staff had lost control. As soon as the supermarket opened, residents lined up wanted to break in. Male employees stood guard outside, saying the situation was special. Starting today, the supermarket's goods will be rationed. A man with long hair refused to obey and tried to force his way in. Little did he know that Audrey walked up to the entrance, signaling the employees to raise their rifles. "If anyone tries to force their way in, we will immediately shoot. But if everyone cooperates, we can all buy food rations." The man with long hair was fuming. He came with a group of people to seek revenge at night. They caught the manager and threatened Atlee to open the door. In fact, the man with long hair just wanted to steal some supplies. They didn't plan to escalate the situation. Unexpectedly, Atlee took the opportunity to incite the employees to resist. They said that we would lose our advantage if we opened the door. Only by seizing the supplies could they have no worries. Under her instigation, everyone picked up weapons one after another. The man with long hair accidentally fired the gun in a panic and ended up killing the manager. This cowardly group immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Meanwhile, Atlee won the support of the employees by buying people's hearts. She completely gained the support of the employees. At the same time, Mark received the news. Helgoland Island is about to restrict outsiders from entering and leaving. The mayor of the island hopes Mark can stay here to develop vaccines using local laboratories. Upon hearing this, Mark immediately contacted his wife. Let her bring back the existing experimental results to the island as soon as possible. Atlee, in order to continue expanding her influence, took the initiative to approach the mayor of Helgoland Island. She proposed establishing a temporary organization on the island to reframe the survival rules. If the mayor is willing to accept, they can share the supermarket's resources. In addition, Atlee found a journalist to come and record the new changes made by the supermarket. She specifically invited Mark to stand by her and sent the warehouse's medicine to the other party for free for research on the vaccine. These good deeds were broadcast simultaneously on television. Atlee's prestige rose as a result. Shortly after, the mayor held a meeting as previously mentioned. He kept making empty promises to stabilize the people's trust. But unexpectedly, Atlee suddenly emerged, stating that regardless of the island or elsewhere, no vaccine against the red pox virus has been developed. We don't need these empty words and promises. Want to get through this difficult period? It is necessary to make optimal use of resources. Establish a temporary management organization to jointly uphold the safety of the island. The residents immediately responded to a trellis call upon hearing the news. She took the opportunity to fuel the fire, instruct the supermarket staff to bring out the man with long hair, and explain that this person killed the poor supermarket manager in a bid for supplies. Killed the poor supermarket manager in the middle of the night. If we condone such behavior, Helgoland Island will completely lose its order. Therefore, Atlee proposed, publicly execute the man with long hair as a deterrent. However, democracy is paramount in the temporary government. Everyone can vote by a show of hands. Due to frustration over not being able to buy supplies, prompted the residents to all raise their hands in agreement. In the end, the man with long hair was pushed into the cold sea amidst his former neighbors. Was pushed into the ICC. Mark only then realized that the situation was out of control. The mayor's authority has already been usurped by Atlee. In the evening, he video called his wife. He commented on the changes on the island. The latter excitedly shared the progress of the experiment. Mark felt upset and restless upon hearing this. He asked her when she would be able to return to the island, Bevis. However, before his wife could reply, a group of terrorists stormed into the laboratory. They destroyed the experimental equipment. They engaged in a physical altercation with the researchers. Mark's wife also fell victim to their violence. He watched helplessly as his loved one was beaten to death through the screen. But there was no way to stop it. On the other side, Atlee found the town veterinarian. She admitted that there were too many people on the island. Resources simply couldn't sustain so many people. It was only a matter of time before internal conflict broke out at this rate. So Atlee hoped the veterinarian would cooperate with her to jointly control the population on the small island. The veterinarian did not understand what this meant. Can the population be controlled just because we want to? Atlee looked at the 513 on the calendar and had an idea. She told the veterinarian that we can use the virus. Cut the population in half first. Then announce the island's supplies to the public. Only 513 people can survive. Population. Keep the population at this level. The veterinarian didn't want to do anything harmful to her. Unexpectedly, Atlee took out a bottle of insulin. She knew the vet had diabetes. If there is no insulin supply, you may get a box lunch at any time. Veterinarians can't resist the temptation to live. I agreed to Ateli's proposal. The next day, the two of them came to the beach wearing protective clothing. There are a lot of dead bodies floating here from the land. Veterinarians extract the virus from them. Then, under the pretext of helping residents inject vitamins, inject the virus secretly. As long as a man has a little symptom, the supermarket militia guarding outside will immediately kill them. But doing it this way is too low efficiency and too high risk, and easily arouse everyone's suspicion. So Atli approached Mark, suggested that he do a virus test for all residents on the island. Then Atli concealed it from the other party and arbitrarily altered the test results. The fate of nearly 8,000 people on the island was completely determined by her mood. Atli specifically kept technical talents and those who were easy to control. The rest of the people were all changed to positive. Later, Mark discovered the two's little movements. Atli faced questioning without any panic. Because insufficient supplies is indeed a fact. If you want to protect your son, you must do as I say. In this way, including the mayor, the infected individuals were driven out of Hergo Island overnight. Only 513 carefully selected people remained on the island. During this time, the mayor intended to resist. The result was that the escort personnel were shot dead on the spot. A totalitarian society was officially established. Atra is the queen here. The memories come to an end here. At this time, Mark is in isolation, watching his beloved son stop breathing. He no longer has the motivation to live on. So he took out the tape recording the evidence of the crime, planning to expose Atra's misdeeds. Unexpectedly, Annie suddenly came in with a gun. She directly destroyed that tape. She told Mark that it wasn't the right time to go public. The Count is about to take over this little island. The resources he has in hand will surely help us develop a vaccine. Mark is heartbroken after losing his son. No response was made. At the same time, the Count, with the help of Xiaohe, found the large ship that Moik mentioned. Sure enough, there were the most advanced medical equipment inside. The Count set off towards the island with full confidence. At the same time, Atli was still enjoying her own swimming pool, completely unaware that a storm is brewing. The story of the first season ends here. A post-apocalyptic sci-fi drama full of political metaphors. Although there are many logical loopholes in the setting, many plotlines seem a bit forced. Fortunately, it does not affect the overall viewing experience. The series is like a mirror reflecting reality. When facing extreme situations, both society and individuals will reveal their truest selves. One day survival will become the greatest challenge. When that day comes, how many people can maintain their humanity, uphold morality? This seems to be the theme that every soft science fiction discusses. I believe everyone has their own answer in their heart.